Good morning and welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. Hey, this is, I suppose this is my third broadcast in the last 24 hours. It could be the fourth, arguably, but hey, it's 24 hours ago we were doing this very show. So, just to let everybody know, I was host for Justin's show, True Politics, on yesterday, and that's a show that's going to be aired on June 11th. And this is about the topic of the impact of the Catholic Church on world politics.
Oh, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be, so look it up on True Politics on Facebook. It's a show that's going to be aired there. They also, True Politics now has a YouTube site, which helped them get set up. So there, that was show number 2 that I did yesterday after Talking Niagara. So put that in the can, ready for airing next on June 11th at 11 a.m. I think it is on True Politics. Now the other one is that I then did Spin Legal last night with Angela.
Oh, okay. So you're a busy boy.
I've been a busy boy, yeah. And also want to announce that Spin Legal is moving over to a Tuesday night.
Okay.
Right, so it's moving to Tuesday, and the reason for the move is basically it's been kind of awkward. Wednesday night, there's a lot of activity goes on Wednesday night, and we decided we'd better move till Tuesday to, so we can take part in some of the Wednesday night activities.
Okay.
Okay. And we've got a couple of comments here from everybody. Okay, let's do this. Yes, and good morning, Mike. So good morning, Chris, and good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Laurie.
Yeah. So welcome to Talking Niagara. It's June 5th, 2025, and we got various topics today, including first one up. Well, I put the first one up because it was after yesterday's story, but it's more important to us locally. Scourge of panhandling at Dorchester and Morrison. I don't know. I
don't know if any of you.
I go through there typically, I'd say, on a Saturday or Sunday, right, at certain points. Yes, there's a few panhandlers there. Do I find them a nuisance? Not particularly.
They're in my experience, they haven't been aggressive panhandlers.
Yeah.
In my experience, they have not been very aggressive panhandlers, but they're there. And they're up against the post. And of course, I worry about their safety. And of course, I do worry about sooner or later they will get aggressive. But I have a look at them. They sometimes they got some pretty nice shoes on. They got a decent pair of pants and clothes and everything like that, and they look reasonably healthy. So some of them look thin and wayward, but but other ones look like they're pretty good shape. So what do they need the money for?
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't need the money for anything to eat because the soup kitchen is there. If they need some extra this or that, they can go to the Salvation Army or the Project Share.
Yeah.
What they need money for is tobacco and booze and other stuff. So that's the trouble with panhandling.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go for something they need. It's going to go for liquor or drugs or tobacco.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't call it a scourge, as I said. That was the words that we used by the review. They're putting in no panhandling signs at the intersection isn't necessarily going to stop it, though.
You always get these stories too about people who are really good at panhandling make quite a bit of money doing it. and they they move around and from place to place. I think when I was when I just left Scarborough or something, there was a professional panhandler. Somebody followed them around and found out that they lived rather well. They made
actually, there's a
lot
story.
of extra money panhandling.
There was an experiment done by this is back in the 80s, so it's not, may have nothing to do with today in panhandling. This experiment back in the 80s took place in the main station in New York. What's that one?
Central
Union Station.
Union Station's in Toronto, but that's Central Grand Central.
Grand Central in New York. Yeah, okay. Basically, day number one of the experiment, and I think they were all done on the same day of the week. But day number one of his experiment, he dressed up as a bum, real down in the dumps bum, right? Real not got a thing in the world type of absolute bum. And he said he got $5 in the day. All right. So, remember back in the 80s, different monetary amounts. Next experiment day, he dressed up in good casual clothing like a student might wear. And he earned in the day panhandling at Central Station about $100. All right. The third day, he's wearing top-notch business suit, just as if he's a corporate executive. And his story on that day is that his wallet got left at home, and all he had to do was the ticket to get into work. Now he needs to get home. All right. Not only did he get tickets bought for him, he earned $1,000 in that day.
Yeah, but that's not a sustainable panhandle. What I mean? Everyone could find themselves in that same situation where they lost their wallet or something like that.
Yeah.
And because you think of yourself as the same person as him, but if you see that person day on day, or you discover him a little later doing the same thing, the jig is up on you big time, quick. But if you dress like a bum all the time, there's no way that anyone's going to call you out.
No. Yeah.
So that's the trouble with this experiment.
Yeah.
It's a one day only thing.
Oh, of course it's a one day only. I just thought it was an interesting experiment by the guy,
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's not how would I say it? It's not definitive at all. But there you have it. So yeah, you can there are all kinds of cons, like panhandling. When you're giving out alms to people, it's not always a scam or whatever. However, in our situation here in our life, where people are trying to draw on some money, those that are really down and out are looking for tobacco or liquor or money for drugs. They're not looking for food, because they can get food at anywhere. They can get handouts of food. Somebody's going to give them something. Project Share is going to give them something. Food Kitchen's going to give them something.
Yeah.
They're going to get clothes. They're going to get vouchers from Salvation Army to go downtown to the Boys and Girls thrift store there. So there is no need to give money. And they have, in the article, they said, well, it's dangerous. It's going to be dangerous for the panhandlers. I haven't seen aggressive panhandlers. They stay on the island, so it's not that dangerous. But there is the potential of getting very aggressive panhandlers. And I've been at corners where the panhandlers, once you stop, come down the left turn lane and knock on your window and and try to get you some money. Actually, and they scare old ladies, and the old ladies will be digging in their purse and trying to get them a few coins. You know what I mean?
Well, what bothers me most about that is you're in the queue for the left-hand turn. All right, you're in the queue for the left-hand turn, and you know that only so many cars are going to get through, and then somebody stops sorts out their purse and hands them out some coin. And that whole process, I'm sitting there thinking, come on, whoever you are, get friggin' moving, because I'm not going to make the turn right now.
So well-meaning people think, oh, the whole world can stop for this minute while I dig in for some change for this. The poor unfortunate. The problem is if panhandling is successful, it brings more people onto the corner. So you have ones on the island, you have one on every corner. You'll have panhandlers bugging people crossing the street. Wherever panhandling is successful, you'll get more panhandlers. Now it could evolve into a kind of panhandling. In the article, it says they have thought of different ways of sort of resisting panhandling by putting spikes on the island, like spikes where you can't stand there. That's really stupid because other people are going to need that island for some reason or other somewhere along the line.
People cross that island. Yeah, exactly. People cross that island. Maybe they're bringing their whole family there. You don't want spikes on that island.
No, you don't want spikes on the island to deter panhandlers. I mean, that's really dumb. What happens if a cyclist comes by and wipes out? Then he's going to be spiked to death. Really good. So
exactly, things like that. Things like that you've got to think about. And as I said, a family that comes across, dashes across to the central reservation, Bob says shouldn't do so, but they do. Well, the traffic.
So I think we could pretty much agree that panhandling is a bad idea at corners, and the more successful a panhandler is at a corner, the more panhandlers will come there. The more that same panhandler will come every day, the more other panhandlers will follow. The more corners will then be crowded with panhandlers. And we have a situation here in our city where we deal fairly well with the needs of the poor, at least as far as food, sustenance, water, that kind of thing. And if someone asked you to buy them a bottle of water, you would. But somebody asks you for $5 or some coins, you say, go get stuff. Yeah. Because you're going to use it for liquor.
Yeah. That's the biggest problem, isn't it? Is the use for liquor and things like that, and drugs.
Liquor, tobacco, and drugs. So and a lot of them look like pretty damn healthy. Like when I go by there and I see the panhandlers and they kind of trying to look slouchy and all that, and they've got pretty good shoes on, pretty good clothes on, but also they look pretty darn healthy, most of them. So they could get a job.
And they're not.
They get a minimum paid job, which would make more for them. And I don't know. I guess maybe panhandling is fairly successful.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like rolling down my window. How much you making per hour?
Because I'm going to give up my job to panhandle. Yeah. Personally speaking, I don't have the guts to even try it.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, panhandling is a bad thing. If panhandling is not working, then they get aggressive. If they get aggressive, it gets dangerous. It gets dangerous for the panhandler. Gets and that. So, and
that's why you buy them food. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can't even buy them food because they'll if you buy them packaged food, they'll sell it to someone else. Yeah, you don't buy them food. You remember buy them like if someone's really asking you for a sandwich and you happen to be close to Sobeys or Zehrs or something like that.
You can't get buying a minimum.
Don't give them money to buy the sandwich because they'll walk in, and this is a scam that I saw. I told my ex one time we were in Vancouver. I says, don't give that like some lady come up, young woman, had a real sob story, was crying. I'm away from home and I really need something to eat. So I says, don't give her any. Oh no, I have to. And they gave her money. And I watched that young lady. So she got in line at the Burger King. there, and I watched her. She went up to the counter and got a glass of water and left. And, so that was the scam that she was using. She made it look as if she was getting in line, and she looked around and made sure that nobody could see her, and then bailed. So
she got the glass of water.
Never give money. Never give money.
She got the glass of water because she needed it, and you're right. Well, there was a scam going on in the Zayres car park during the winter, I noticed, whereby this gentleman was sending out ladies across to go beg people for food. I need this to buy some rice, and I need that to buy some potatoes or this sort of thing. And what was happening is, if you gave them money, they'd scurry back to the van that they came from. And if you watch the van, what was happening is that there was a guy in the van who was collecting all the money, and there was a team of 3 or 4 women that were going around the car park asking for money to be able to buy. So
the guy was a panhandler pimp.
Yeah, panhandler pimp. Yep. Probably.
Anyway, what else we got?
He was pimping.
We pretty well flogged that to death. What else do we got?
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next situation. We owe it to Vivian Silver to fight for peace.
We've brought up Vivian Silver's name many times here, particularly right after the October 7th massacre, where Hamas went into the kibbutzes and stuff like that, and tried to capture people, and people they couldn't capture, they were in safe rooms. They burnt their houses. But there is a lot of controversy of who burnt who, because when the Israeli Defense Forces showed up, they're putting tank shells through people's houses, and it looked like Hamas really didn't have much means to burn the houses down like they said. But aside from that controversy, Vivian Silver, who is a Canadian, she's Jewish, she's a Canadian and an Israeli, so she moved to the kibbutz in Israel. Now, she's from Winnipeg originally. She also lived in the United States. She was part of this movement called Women Wage Peace. Yeah. And she tried to bring Palestinians and Israelis together. She lived near the Gaza border. She went into Gaza City. She went into Gaza frequently, brought children and other people who needed medical attention who couldn't get it in Gaza. It took them to Israeli hospitals. She was a worker for peace, and she's actually become kind of an icon for peace. But even when she was being attacked and she was in her safe room, she, even at that point, at her 11th hour, she spoke of this all happened because there hasn't been any peace. She's under attack, and she's defending the movements of peace. She said, this is happening because we don't have peace. So I wanted to bring her up, especially here, because she's was united with other Palestinian women and Israeli women, Jewish women, trying to push for peace, trying to push for some sort of reconciliations. And the bitter irony here is a person like her, who worked towards peace and reconciliation, was one of the people that was killed. And it's a bitter irony. At the age of 74, when she has still had lots to give, she's dead. But now she is a symbol, and some apparently want to use her as a symbol for retribution. And her friends and family have reminded everybody, no, this is not for retribution. This is, you have to remember what she said her whole life and what she had done. And that is trying to find common ground between Israelis and Palestinians. Yeah. She was a real humanitarian. She organized the group Women Wage Peace. And she does not, and her friends and all that want her to be very, very cognizant of that and to remember that. Now I got this. This is an opinion piece from the Globe and Mail, so you probably couldn't have read it. You may not have been able to. I don't know. But anyway, her friend.
It links in with what we were talking. It links in with what we finished on yesterday about the 27 additional Palestinians injured and 27 Palestinians killed and 90 injured as they opened fire on the distribution site in Rafah.
Yeah, that's the Al Jazeera article.
Yeah.
The other one I was talking about was an opinion piece by in the Globe and Mail. Now,
yeah, I know.
Now, the Israeli gunfire kills 27 aid seekers. This is the fourth day in a row. That was the fourth day in a row that aid seekers, people coming looking for aids, were gunned down. The Israeli, they say that the Israeli forces were just kind of responding to people going in the wrong direction and all that. But I think the Israeli forces are very jittery and they just open fire at the least. We saw what they did when the Israeli soldiers tried to surrender after they'd been hostages, and they were walking down the street shirtless and with a white flag, and they were gunned down by their own soldiers. And they were speaking Hebrew too, by the way. So we know the Israeli soldiers are trigger happy. And so you have these people that, like the sort of ironically named Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is the source of this idiotic problem. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is set up by the Israelis and the Americans to feed the Palestinians, but they force them to march to certain areas, controlled sites, and of course what you do have is thousands and thousands of people who are desperate for food and are trying to get to these places because they keep moving them around. And if they just go offline a little bit, like the Israeli Defense Forces freak out and start shooting. This is 4 days in a row this has happened. What is wrong here when you have desperate, hungry people looking for food, trying to get to that aid, and then they get gunned down?
Yeah.
4 days in a row. And the Americans are part of this. What's wrong with this? And they say, oh, well, this is what we're going to do because to control the looting and people attacking the aid trucks. Well, for one thing, they don't have enough aid trucks going in. So when one does, you have people who are panicking and hungry are going to attack that. We're going to try to get what they can off of that truck. Also, you're going to have black marketeers in there, of course, trying to get at it. And and so they say, oh, we send lots of food in there. Hamas has got it all stored up and hoarding it. Well, they may have got some, but they're not going to get it all. And the main thing here is to get the food. If you get lots of food in there, you get lots of aid in there, then you don't have people clamoring around desperate for food, looting and trying to get at that food. Remember the UN warehouse was burst open in the early first year of that war because food aid wasn't getting out, and the UN was not able to get it out because of the military attacks. And then what does the IDF say? Well, they blame the people. Oh, wow, you walked down you were walking down the wrong road, so you're in the wrong road, so we're going to shoot you. Yeah. It's chaos. It is badly organized for one thing. It is ill-gotten ideas of how this is going to happen. Like here, the suspects, it says, were about 500 meters, 550 yards from the site. The military said in a statement on a telegram, adding that it was looking into reports of casualties. So they were 500 yards away, and they were coming from the wrong direction. So, guess what? The only solution to that is not go over there and tell them, look, go over there, not here. No, we're going to gun you down.
Yeah.
Oh, we shot warning warning.
Coming from the wrong direction. What direction are you supposed to come from? It's like I live over there. I'm walking in a straight line to get there. Oh no, you've got to walk in a crooked circle.
Yeah, and how much is communication going to happen in a place like that?
Exactly.
Where there's no police left and there's no there's no organization left. There's just pandemonium. Of course, if there's pandemonium, people are gonna, oh, there's food over there, I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah.
It's an ugly thing, and it keeps happening, and we keep putting up with it. And finally, Canada, France, and the UK have said something about it, but they haven't done anything about it yet.
Well, it's
always the threat, well, maybe we'll do something about it. That's because we've got no spine.
It's a place where we've got to, whereby you've got to apply some common sense. If they're making a beeline for the food, leave them alone. God Almighty.
Look, they create the problem by bombing everything in sight.
Yeah.
And then they create more problems by saying, you got to go over here, you got to go over here, you got to go to these safe zones. And when they go to the safe zones, they're killed.
Yeah.
So the 27 people who were killed a couple of days ago wouldn't be dead now if they hadn't tried to find some food.
Yeah.
Food that was offered by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
It's die of starvation or die trying to get food.
I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find. There's Americans that withdrew from this heinous Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The Gaza Humanitarian. Why did they name it like that when all they've been doing is killing people, and they haven't really been supplying with adequate food either? So why the name Gaza Foundation? Why not Gaza Oppressive Organization?
Yeah. Well, it's like anyway. Yeah. We always use kinder names for things than they really are.
Yeah, this is it. Key U.S. consulting firm withdraws from America and Israeli-backed Gaza aid agency. So Boston Consulting Group termination of contract with Gaza Humanitarian Foundation will make agency's job harder, sources say. Well, the reason why the Boston Consulting Group that was supposed to be helping with this finds that it's untenable. It's a goofy, badly organized, badly conceived idea. That's why they're pulling out. They find no reason. So it says here, the Boston Consulting Group, a U.S. consulting firm that helped establish the new American and established distribution mechanisms, has abandoned the project. A spokesman for the Gaza Humanitarian Front, confirming the report in the Washington Post. The spokesman for BCG had called back its team from Tel Aviv on Friday. The report came and announced that it would appoint U.S. evangelical interfaith Reverend Johnny Moore. Oh, that's really good. You got some Bible thumper out there that wants the end of days to happen. Oh, great. Anyway, according to the report, BCG had been responsible for setting the payment and the procurement rates for the network of contractors tasked with constructing 4 Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid centers in southern Gaza. It began active when they started handing out the scheme, supported by Washington and Jerusalem, circumvented Hamas distribution of the aid. The UN itself has called the whole thing a scam. Not really much of a scam, but it just ineffective. So the UN, who was the one that was distributing a lot of the food, finds this to be completely ineffective, and BCG had offered its services to humanitarian effort and pro bono basis, did not receive any compensation for the work.
Yeah.
However, another person familiar with the project disputed the spokesperson's account of BCG, submitted voices for over $1 million each month. So there's all kinds of controversy. Anyway, BCG Consulting Group pulls out, and Mainly why I pulled out is because I don't think it knows it's going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Not the way they've set up.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on again. Misophonia has a generic links with depression and anxiety.
Do you know what misophonia is?
Well, I hear it's about slurping. It's about sounds like slurping, snoring, breathing, chewing, draw a stressful response from people sufferers.
People with misophonia hear things like, misophonia is a real thing, and I know somebody with that suffers from misophonia. That is where noises drive them crazy.
Yeah.
Now everybody knows that when you take your nails and screech them across the blackboard at school, it makes everybody go ooh like this.
Yeah.
Well, imagine that.
Well, we had a teacher that came in when everybody's chatting. She used to put her nails into the board and scrape it down the board. Oh, and by the end of the year, the janitor had to paint in black over where she had put her nails down the blackboard because she tore it off.
Okay, aside from sadistic teachers making noises on the chalkboard, this is a real thing. This misophonia is a real thing, and what I meant by remember that when the nails, most of the time it was done accidentally, where somebody's nails screeched down the chalkboard and everybody cringed. That happens to people with misophonia when they hear people chewing or slurping or breathing heavily. Those noises irritate them in a similar way as that chalkboard screech does. It's a real thing out there, and keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, everyone, because there are probably people that find it very difficult to be in company of other people because of their misophonia. If they're around a bunch of people at a dinner table, everybody's crunching and slurping and making food noises, or people with stuffy noses, or people chewing gum. Believe me, it all irritates people who have misophonia. They're not angry at you. They don't dislike you. It's just that is a condition, and it is also related to depression, and has the same sort of PTSD type of anxieties and
anxiety, depression, and PTSD type type symptoms.
Yes. So the psychiatrists in Amsterdam are analyzing this, and so they go to great lengths to find this out. Now they find also that the same sort of thing happens to people with tinnitus. Now I have tinnitus bad. So does my brother. I had tinnitus probably from the factories that I worked in, but after I got in a car accident, it got really bad, and it's never let up. It's extremely irritating. Now I've found a way of which to try to ignore it the best I can, but I'm telling you, if you pay attention to it, it irritates you to no end. And people with misophonia do not have that ability to be able to ignore sounds and stuff that irritate them. They just have to find a way of living with it.
Yeah.
And it will bring on depression and other things like that. So I just brought this up as a human interest story to introduce everyone to misophonia. And that might explain a few things for themselves, because people with severe misophonia can't even be anywhere around people at all. They're all complete, almost isolates, because the irritation factor is insane on them.
I knew this woman a long time ago who had this. I didn't know what the name was back then, but she couldn't even stand. When she hated the sound of people breathing.
Yeah.
Right. And she said even if she's at home at the weekend, she wasn't married because she couldn't. Because of the condition, she wasn't married and she couldn't she'd be at home and she'd be, her own breathing drew her nuts.
Yes, and that's true. I've met people like that. But the thing is, you could also have degrees of it.
Yeah.
I remember working with a couple of guys one time, and they at lunchtime they had heavy breathing. They'd have the way they ate and stuff like that. I don't know. I had a few episodes of misophonia myself because they drove me insane.
Well, though it's true, there are some people who, wow, somebody drilling.
No, that's the grass cutter, and I don't know why they come before 8 o'clock.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Kind of weird. All right. Yeah. So the whole, you're right about the 8 o'clock thing, because that's normally a precious deadline. There's rules about that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually that slurping and that whole thing, most people get it to some extent, and I hate personally, I have to say I hate noisy eaters.
Well, yeah, and so that'll give you an idea what misophonia is like. But even subtle noises of eating and breathing and chewing and slurping, and if I take my coffee cup and go,
yeah,
a hot cup of coffee, that would drive somebody with misophonia crazy. So I brought it up as a kind of a human interest story. It's more, there's more of it out there than you think, and you yourself may have issues with misophonia at different times of your life. And particularly if it's associated with things like, here they come again, especially if they're associated with things like depression.
Yeah.
It brings on depression and anxiety and things like that. So you might know somebody who might be acting a little strange, might be avoiding your company or whatever, and it might be something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the best thing to do, whether you're around, if you have a friend like that, don't eat, don't breathe, don't drink.
Don't breathe. The most important thing.
Just use sign languages to talk with it.
Yeah. Just keep your mouth shut, tape it shut. Put a thing over your nose, put a clip over your nose, tape your mouth shut, and just do what you can, not breathing.
Yeah. There you have it. Yeah. Okay, what else we got?
Trump has announced a travel ban on the same 12 countries as he announced some time ago.
Is it the same ones or new ones?
Well, basically, he started with Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. But he's also heightened restrictions upon Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela.
Yeah, so there are some countries there that he did not do in his first one. The first one was mostly the Muslim ban, and it was like Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, selected Muslim countries. This one takes in more.
Haiti, it doesn't fit. Obviously, Haiti isn't part of that list.
No, but Haiti has always been a bit of a problem because it is.
I know. Yeah.
Sadly, the people of Haiti haven't had really any law and order for a very long time.
That's
the
true.
The Kenyans are in there trying to bring peace to them now. As we reported a few months ago, a Kenyan was killed by a criminal while they were trying to bring law and order to the area. So Haiti has always been a source of a lot of problems because, of course, any Haitian that can get on a boat and get anywhere close to the United States is going to try. And the United States is full of Haitians. So that's one of the reasons I think they're probably trying to restrict the people from Haiti. But what about?
Yeah.
You can understand Afghanistan. Yeah, they would have potential, Islamic terrorists. I guess that's their Burma. Though, why would they say Burma when the country's name is Myanmar? Why would they call it Burma?
That's true as well. That's true as well. I just read it as it came, right, Dave? Don't. I read it as it came, and Burma's been Myanmar for at least 10 years, right? And
For a
again,
long,
it's
long
not
time.
an Islamic. It's not an Islamic country either.
Well, there are some. There are very few Islamists in Myanmar. Mostly, what you find in Myanmar is rebels, and we have in Myanmar a government that is not a nice government, and people are trying to rebel. But you have many different groups rebelling, and many different kind of rebels. So I don't know what they're thinking here. Do they really want to restrict people? Like, they're going to have a lot of people come from Myanmar trying to get away from all that. Maybe that's another reason they're doing it. If they open the doors to those from Myanmar, they'll be obliged to open the doors to more refugees. Chad is a country that's split half between Christians and half Muslims. They've had civil wars there. They're extremely poor. Maybe that's another reason why they don't want to open the doors to Chadi refugees. Republic of Congo,
Congo, similar, very similar. Yeah.
So maybe they. I don't know why they don't want people from the Congo.
And actually, Chad, Republic of Congo, and Equatorial Guinea, and Eritrea are all in the same area, aren't they?
Equatorial Guinea, Central Africa. That Equatorial Guinea is right on the coast. Congo's not far from it, Congo's a huge country right through the central part of Africa, right along.
I believe it borders on Equatorial Guinea.
And but Eritrea, okay, that's a Muslim country in East Africa.
Yeah.
Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. So those you could think,
those
maybe they're trying to avoid that. Those are probably the ones they still had from the Islamic ban they had before.
Yeah. Those last ones, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, clearly are all largely Islamic states.
And they also have a heightened restrictions on visitors from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela.
Yeah.
Now, apparently,
Venezuela had to appear in there somewhere because basically one of his first targets was alleged Venezuelan illegals in the U.S.
Well, they're the gang members that they're allegedly looking for. Venezuelan gang members. Now the real problem here is is Trump got his people together and said to them, "Tell me the countries that we really have to look out for. Tell me the countries whose citizens would be of most threat to Americans." And he's come up with these, and there is no real explanation of why. Yeah, some of the ones that are Islamic nations, you could say he's trying to use the excuse that they're trying to avoid Islamic terrorists. But the other ones, I'm not so sure. Haiti itself as being of course, a huge.
Haiti, and the worst about these is you can say, "Oh yeah, we hate the governments in those countries." But it's often the refugees are not pro-government refugees. They are people who found the government to be abhorrent.
Well, this is what kind of confuses me. It says the list results from a January 20 executive order Trump issued requiring the Departments of State and Homeland Security and the Department and the Director of National Intelligence to compile a report on in italics, hostile attitudes towards the U.S. and whether entry from certain countries represented a national security risk. But the kind of diverse amount of nations there doesn't look like they're going to be hostile. People coming from Haiti would not be hostile. They're just looking for a job. They're looking for a life.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say
somebody from Chad wouldn't be hostile either. They're looking for a life.
Well, exactly. The people who are coming from these named countries are often the dissidents, the people who do not like the Sudanese government, who want out.
What about people from Myanmar?
Yeah,
I mean, the people there. Seriously, you could have some very wealthy or well-to-do Myanmarians looking for a place to reestablish themselves because, of course, the whole country is in chaos,
in mess. Yeah,
and business. Nobody knows how that's going to sort itself out. So they include students and faculty, as well as business people, tourists, and people visiting friends and family. The order often referred to the Muslim ban in the last one, as retooled amid legal challenges until a version was upheld. So, unfortunately, is this part of the bargaining chips? Is it part of the leverage that Trump is trying to put on different countries for trade deals or whatever else? It's very difficult when he comes up with a security issue like the fentanyl coming from Canada, and he uses that as an excuse to put punishing tariffs on Canada. It's a fake thing.
Yeah.
Especially when way more fentanyl comes the other way.
Yeah.
And we have exactly the same problems. People coming from U.S. into Canada, people coming from Canada into U.S. They're very small numbers. And so, it's a phony, phony security directive.
Yeah, and in his first term in January 2017, he banned Iraqi, Syrians, Iranians, Sudanese, Libyans, Somali, and Yemen. So these were all predominantly Muslim countries.
Yeah. So I don't know really quite what to make of it. It won't affect us here in Canada. I don't think it will affect the Americans very much anyway, because the amount of people coming from Sudan with the wherewithal of coming to the United States have got to be limited.
Yeah.
And people with money that getting out of Sudan or Yemen or something like that may be able to make it to the West. But the average poor person or something like that, you're not going to see too many of them. Europe would be more affected by transient type of refugee seekers coming from those countries. But I don't know. I think it's just something that he does out there to make the Americans feel good. Okay. He's protecting us against the bad people of those countries that I don't even know where is. I don't even know. The average American wouldn't know where Burundi was. The average American wouldn't know where Equatorial Guinea is.
Yeah.
They just don't get it in school. And it's hard enough for us here in Canada. We got a better educational system.
Yeah. But again, there's possibly hundreds, if not thousands, of Iraqi, Syrians, Iranians living in refugee camps on the border between Syria and Turkey.
Well, yeah. Well, they don't want them. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Keep them there. We don't want them. So we're going to restrict their access to this country, make it very difficult for anybody that wants to come here. They can't.
Yeah. And a lot of those.
The average American, as I said to myself, a lot of it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I think the average American says, "Oh, my president's protecting me against these bad people who have bad attitudes towards Americans." I don't think so. If you go in the Middle East, most people don't like American politics, but love America.
Yeah, individuals do. Political regimes are different than individuals, though.
Yeah, they hate U.S. foreign policy, but they love the United States.
Yeah, you can go to a country that hates you can go to a country where the government hates the United States, but the people within it all love the United States.
Well, in my experience in the Muslim world is they hate the U.S. foreign policy. They hate the bombing the crap out of people here and there and everything.
Of course.
But they all want to be in the United States, and they want their sons and daughters to be educated in the United States if that's possible. And if they can get them to live in the United States, is good, because the opportunities in the United States are great, but they just don't like U.S. foreign policy. So it's a kind of a mixed bag. They would love to go to the United States, and we see that is true. We have all kinds of Palestinians, Sudanese. We have all kinds of people in the United States from these countries already that are doing well, but they even when they come to the country, they don't like the U.S. policy, because there's the two Americas, basically, the one for Americans and the one for everyone else. The policies for Americans give you opportunities and rights and all that, but outside the borders of the United States wields its power in a very imperialistic fashion. So that's the difference. People love America, but don't love what they do outside of America.
Yeah. Right. Nothing riskier than a dangerous country that's broke too. And basically, Chris Simone is adding that Sierra Leone is a safe country to be, and that's new.
Sierra Leone was the British version of Liberia. Liberia was the country where the United States tried to take its former slaves back to Africa. They thought repatriating them back in Africa was the thing to do. And the British tried to do the same thing as Sierra Leone. Of course, it didn't work at all. Didn't work very well at all. But Sierra Leone, look, Chris has been to Sierra Leone. He knows what he's talking about. And maybe he could understand why Donald Trump does not want people from Sierra Leone in the United States.
Thank you, Chris, for this adding up. We've said hate over 50 times in the last 53 minutes.
Yeah, okay. That's very observant. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that at all. I wouldn't have guessed that we said.
Well, I know, actually, given the topics we've raised today, I'm not surprised, because they're topics that are tough, and there's a lot of hate being shown out in the world today,
and a lot of fear and xenophobia too. As I've said before, we in North America are poorly educated to the rest of the world. We have very little understanding of the rest of the world and the other countries, and that's why we get our hackles up, and we immediately become afraid and resistant to other people. The United States is even much, much worse. Like, Americans are beautiful people, but I have never seen a democracy where the people are more ignorant in my whole life. They beat Canada in ignorance. Like, I thought Canada's bad enough, but in the United States, the average person is very, very ignorant, and they have a poor education system, and they're inwardly looking. And I think that's part of a lot of what drives this. That's what got most of the people backing George Bush on the war against Iraq, because they thought they were going after Al Qaeda, and when they were bombing the crap out of Saddam Hussein. Ignorance is the thing that bothers me the most, and a guy like Donald Trump can use the average person's ignorance, and say, "Oh, look, these people from Sierra Leone, they're a real threat. Oh, he must know what he's talking about," And then you get somebody like Chris Simone say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with Sierra Leone," and nobody's going to believe Chris.
And Chris is saying America's the greatest country in the world.
America is a great country. However, it's just like all other great countries. Britain was the greatest nation before for the U.S. was the greatest nation, and had a lot of really good things and a lot of really bad things. Like Britain was the one that stopped slavery around the world. Britain was the one that began universal education for its citizens, but at the same time, it was an imperial power, just like the United States is.
Yep.
So,
well, I refer you to I refer you to the skit by what the heck. The skit involving Monty Python about the great thing about the Romans. What did the Romans ever do to for us?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's the roads, the theaters, the aqueducts.
Yeah.
You know,
that skit. Everybody knows it. All right. You know, and you could say that about any of those past great imperial powers. What have they ever done for us? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, apart from the roads, apart from the aqueducts, what have they ever done for us? You know, You know,
so there's all kinds of ways of looking at it, and I'm not so sure what Chris meant by the America is the greatest country. Does that mean power wise? Does that mean does it mean morally? Is it morally? Is it like the United States is a very, 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 very generous nation, and it has been throughout its history.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But it's also been a okay. We've got to. Yeah, generous.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so moving on. Manitoba First Nation wildfire evacuees find refugees in Niagara Falls. As we said, there's now about 2,400 people are already staying in about 5 hotels. Some
pretty fancy ones. The one picture was them overlooking the falls, and I think that's at the Marriott where we just had our convention, our Eastern Canada and Caribbean Kiwanis Convention. We had it at the Marriott, and when I saw the picture there of the Indigenous people of Manitoba looking over the falls, I think it was the same view, the exact same view. But let's put it this way: this is a good use of hotel rooms here. However, it will interfere. It may interfere with tourists. This is the beginning of the tourist season, and we're using these hotels to take care. Now, this is a good thing. I don't think anyone can say anything against it. And the hotels are making money, obviously. Somebody's putting the money up for them. But it may interfere with the tourism.
So your delegates would have stayed in places like the Marriott, wouldn't they, last weekend?
Yeah, they were. There were 668, I think, conventionees there.
Yeah.
You know.
So these people were probably taking the rooms as soon as your convention members left.
It would have been within a day or two because the fires got that bad that quick, and so it's a very good use of that. And you know that they're going to go back home when it's safe to do so.
Yeah,
that's a little bit different from the asylum seekers who are going to be here who have been here for already a year and a half and probably be here for longer.
The hope, of course, for these evacuees is that probably in about a month they'll be heading home, or less.
It'll depend on when it's safe.
Yeah,
and then and if they've got some place to go back to too, that's anher thing. So the Manitoba government
they'll rebuild their homes. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Manitoba government right now is overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's good use for those rooms. I don't know how much it's going to interfere with tourism, or tourists are going to be able to get rooms when things really get heated up in a month. Within this month, I guess it would begin.
Well, we got basically, we're on the 5th now. We probably got 20 days, less than 20 days before tourist season starts in full swing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
hopefully
the Indigenous folk don't have to stay here that long. It's going to be a nice little interlude for them. They're going to be able to enjoy themselves a little bit. They're going to be worried about their own homes and all that, of course. But this is a little bit of an interlude for them. They can come here and they can enjoy the hospitality of the Manitoba and Ontario government and the hoteliers here, and just kind of hang out at a cool place.
Yeah.
But of course, they're going to be mostly worried about what's happening to their homes and all that. They're going to get updates. And anyway, it's just good use for it.
Yeah. And they'll be going home at some point and rebuilding anyway.
Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah. Anything else to be said about that?
No, only that. Well, the obvious thing is to think of the asylum seekers.
Yeah.
I think they probably got the idea of sending all those people here to Niagara Falls, where there's abundance of hotel rooms, from the federal government, who did that when they didn't know where to put the asylum seekers, so they dumped them in Niagara Falls where there's lots of hotel rooms. We're not going to get rid of them anytime soon. And the feds find it very convenient to dump them here. I don't know that this might be a good place for asylum seekers to begin, because there are a lot of low-paying, low-skilled jobs in the summer times here. So a lot of these asylum seekers can get a start, at least.
Yeah.
Getting a job, getting a entry-level job here and there. But I'm not so sure a lot of the asylum seekers are going to be able to maintain themselves for very long without government assistance. I can see them being on government systems
whereas
for decades, because number one, they may not have a language. Number two, even if they do, they don't have the skills. And number three, how do they then get introduced to the higher paying jobs that you need to survive in a place like Niagara Falls? You can't live here on minimum wage. You can't find rooms. What do you do now when somebody's been living in a hotel, being fed every day, got a nice smartphone and good clothes, and then so what do you say to them? Well, you've been on the dole too long now. Time to go out on your own. Where are they going to go?
Oh yeah, I know. All
Where
right.
are they going to go?
Yep. All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And I got nothing else to say on this one. I was just rereading the piece here, and
the natives are going to go back home.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing that we do have the hotel rooms, that we can put them up until things are safe and better for them. But they are going to go back home. Compare them with the asylum seekers, which I have heard that comparison being made, and that's why I bring it up, is that the asylum seekers don't go home.
No, exactly.
They stay.
That's the challenge. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we can leave it at that point. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Do not forget about Gaza. Pray for peace.